Hello, Miss Buford here, and today I'm going to talk to you about 3 books that have some elements of fantasy, some elements of magic, and best of all, some elements of horror. I'm going to talk to you about Night Books by J.A. White. Sweep, the story of a girl and her monster by Jonathan Auxier. And last but not least, Charlie Hernandez and the League of Shadows by Ryan Calejo. One of the reasons I love the story Night Books is because it takes one of my favorite fairy tales, Hansel and Gretel, and puts a twist on it. In this modern day story, young Alex is lured into an apartment building by the sound of his favorite scary movie. Once inside, the door disappears, and Alex is trapped by a witch. He meets a young girl named Yasmin, who has also been trapped by the witch, much longer than Alex. She tells him the witch likes scary stories, and that might be the only reason the witch keeps him around. Luckily, Alex keeps a notebook full of his most terrifying, darkest stories. But how long can Alex continue to write new stories to scare the witch and keep her entertained? Because after all, when he runs out of stories, his time is over. This story has something that's a little spooky for everyone, just a taste, including creepy, crawly creatures. Let me read you a good, spooky quote. Like one of those city-destroying monsters in the old Japanese movies he loved, Alex stomped across the living room floor, trying to crush anything that moved. Meanwhile, Yasmin grabbed a frying pan from the kitchen and used it on a dangler born squirming along walls or scuttling across countertops. Sweep, the story of a girl and her monster. Picture it. London, 1800s. Young Nan Sparrow is only 5 years old when the man she's known her whole life, only as the Sweep, disappears, forcing her to work for a man who is cruel, doesn't feed her well, and doesn't even give her a real bed to sleep in. She becomes a chimney sweep, a dirty, dangerous job. One day on the job, an accident happens, and a piece of charcoal, all she has left of the sweep that took care of her when she was a little girl, suddenly grows a mouth and eyes. This piece of charcoal becomes a soot golem. And as it gets bigger and bigger, Nan feels responsible for it and has to take care of him. But the golem might have a different purpose. I'm going to read you a quote from the scene of the day of the accident. Her entire body felt as if it were burning from the inside out. The char in her pocket had gotten so hot that she thought it would burn a hole clean through her. Both of her eyes were stinging, and tears were streaming down her face. Animal instinct took over, and she clawed and wriggled, desperate to climb free of the smoke. She heard a sickening pop, and a terrible pain ripped through her right shoulder. She ignored the pain and kept climbing higher. In Charlie Hernandez and the League of Shadows, we meet young Charlie, who is going through a very rough time. And by rough time, I mean his house burnt down to the ground. His parents mysteriously vanished. Oh, and he's growing horns out of his head now. After young Charlie has all of this horrible stuff happen to him, he meets Violet, who has a knack for journalism at her young age and is a supreme researcher. She thinks she can help Charlie figure out why all of this strange stuff is happening to them. By following a mysterious map, they follow a skeleton into the underworld. Just to give you a little taste of this story, here's a quote. In fact, he wasn't even human. In the dim green glow of the torchlight, he looked like nothing more than a shovel-wielding skeleton. His nose was gone. His eyes were 2 black holes. Through the sheer fabric of his jumpsuit, I could see his pointy shoulder blades, the hollow birdcage of his ribs, every bump and curve of his bony spine. In this book, Charlie meets real-life Hispanic myths and legends. Some I had never heard of before, but maybe you have. If any of these books sounded good to you, I hope you can find a way to check them out as an audiobook, an ebook, or put them on your reading list for the summer when the libraries are back open. Happy reading!